Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. In today's video we're going to be continuing David's story. This one's going to be called a psalming influence based on First Samuel chapter 16 verse 14 through 23 and also Psalms 23. This is what our first two pages are going to look like. So let's go ahead and get into more David's story. David doesn't know when he will become king, but as he goes back to his sheep, he has a special feeling of God's presence with him. The Lord is my shepherd. My needs are supplied. He shows me safe pastures where we can walk side by side. David's also known for playing his harp as well, and he can play it quite well. That's a beautiful song, but I've never heard it before. I just made it up. It gets lonely out here, so I write songs and sing them to the Lord. Back at the palace, the men go to see King Saul, but they find him staring wildly into space. Sometimes I think the king is going mad. Music seems to be the only thing that helps. I know the shepherd boy. So I just seen David out there singing. So, making beautiful music, and so they know that it helps the king. So, O king, we know a young shepherd who plays the harp and sings beautiful songs. It's plain that God is with the boy. Would you like to hear him? And he says, send for him. God uses David's music talent to introduce him to the royal court, the first step toward making him king of Israel one day. Here, David can learn about kingship and government. He can also witness what life is like for a King Saul who doesn't rely on the Lord. So, not only does this get him his foot in the door, but it also is going to teach him about the ways of it and about the ways of a king who rules without the Lord, and how much better David would be able to do if he stays with the Lord God and he trusts in him as he does right now. The king is very ill today, so he may be dangerous. Don't take your eyes off him for a second. Quietly, David enters the king's room and begins to play. Saul stares at him wildly, but David continues to play and sing of his faith in God. At last, King Saul relaxes and falls asleep. After that, David is often called to the palace. His music quiets Saul's tortured mind, and eventually the king seems well again for a time. After quite the rest, he is getting back to his old self. Now we're going to get into one of the most famous stories about David. So, the most well-known story, one of the most well-known stories in the Bible. A Giant Challenge is what this one is called, based on Samuel 1, chapter 17. These will be the pictures for these two pages. A few years later, the Philistines collect their forces and attack against Israel. Saul messages his army against them, and David's three oldest brothers join the king's forces. One evening, David comes in from the fields to find his father busy packing food. This is for your brothers. I want you to take it to them. I'll leave right away. What's the latest news from the battlefront? Not good, and I'm worried. The not good news is this. A giant is fighting for the Philistines. All the Israelites are scared of him, including King Saul. So, I want you to take into consideration, like, even this is to really balance it out. This is a normal man. So, this man's probably, 5'10" or whatever. And this is Goliath. Goliath is massive, and he's not like the tall people of today, who, if you see a lot of guys who are like, over 8 feet, 9 feet, 10 feet, or however tall they are now, you see them, a lot of them having a lot of problems. They don't live very long, and they can't really do much or anything. They can't really move very well, or, just really do anything. But Goliath wasn't the only giant. There were many giants of their time. They weren't like 300 feet tall or something like that, but they were over 9 feet tall. 9, 10, probably even possibly even 12 feet tall or whatever. But they were huge, muscular. They can run. They can fight. That's why he joined the army. He was able to battle. With a spear, with a sword, all that. He wasn't like the you see these large men today, and it's so hard for them to move and things like that. And he was like he can move like a man of our size, but at the size he was. So at this time, everybody's terrified of him. There's no one who dares to go out there and try to challenge this man. I mean, he is huge, massive, and his strength would be incredible. What's going on? Listen to that giant. Why do you bother living up for or lining up for battle? Just send out a man who dares to fight me. If he kills me, then the Philistines will put down their weapons and be your servants. But if I kill him, you will be our servants. David comes up. He says, "Who is this unclean Philistine that thinks he can defy the army of God?" That's Goliath. The king has said that whoever defeats him will receive great wealth, Saul's own daughter, and best of all, he'll never have to pay taxes again. But no man dares to face Goliath. See, and this is something that people lose a lot of, is they are afraid and they're scared, and they don't have no faith in God at all. Instead of putting their fears behind them, putting all their faith in God, and God will make you slay anything. You're unstoppable with God. With all things with God are possible. So there's no mountain too big or anything. And David believed that. That's why David, this little boy, like I said, 13, he's probably like 15 years old or so, 16 years old, little boy, challenges Goliath. Eliab, David's oldest brother, overhears David asking about Goliath. "What are you doing here, mouthing off? Why aren't you at home, where you belong, taking care of the sheep? Father sent me here with food for you, and I am not the one mouthing off. This Philistine is insulting our God." Ever since the prophet Samuel chose David instead of him, Eliab has been filled with jealousy. Now his shame bursts into the open. "You're just a spoiled kid who wants to watch a battle for your own fun." "No, I just hate to see our God disrespected. I'll fight the giant." David's words spread through the camp. "O king, there is a person who will fight, but," and the end, interrupts him. "Bring him here at once." David enters Saul's tent, but Saul does not recognize his young shepherd as the same boy who used to play for him, because he was kind of ill at the time. "An untrained teenager. You can't fight a giant. He's an elite warrior. I am a shepherd. I have killed bears and lions to protect my sheep. The Lord is my shepherd, so God will help me kill this Philistine to protect our people." Spoken with courage and faith. "Go, and the Lord be with you. You may even wear my own armor to protect you from this monster." I can't wear this. I'm not used to fighting in armor. Besides, my plan is to defend myself, not to defend myself, but to attack. So, he was going to wear the armor, but it was just too big, and he's not used to wearing it, so he doesn't wear it. And he doesn't care about defending himself. He just is going to go on immediate attack. And even talking to Saul up here, he's like, "The Lord is my shepherd. He will take care of me. He will deliver us from this enemy," because his faith is so strong. And he would not let somebody disrespect God like that. "I don't need armor, just some stones for my sling." So he gets a slingshot, the same one he killed that lion with, a couple years prior, and the bear. Puts some rocks in there. With only his shepherd's staff and a sling, David goes out to meet the Philistine giant. The armies of both camps watch their champions as they face each other. And Goliath begins to laugh. "And do you think I'm a dog that you can chase me away with sticks and stones? I'll give your flesh to the wild animals." And David, screams out, "You come with a sword and spear and a shield, but I came in the name of God, who will give me the victory." The giant laughs, but David whirls his sling takes a careful aim and lets the stone fly. And David has slain Goliath with a single shot from his sling. He runs to the body, grabs Goliath's sword, and holds it up in victory. And he nails him right in the forehead, and kills him. And it doesn't say this because this is a little toned down for children, but it's still based out of the KJV. Yeah, when David takes that sword, he actually cuts Goliath's head off, and holds it up. This is how powerful my God is. Let everyone know that our God does not need human weapons. This battle is the Lord's, and he has delivered the Philistines to us. It must have been a God. How else could a mere boy defeat Goliath? In terror, the Philistines flee for their lives. Spurred on by this sudden turn of events, the excited Israelites chased the Philistines back to their land. Now, this story is really to go to show you it doesn't matter how big the challenge is. It doesn't matter if it is you facing a man just as David. David and Goliath. David was just a small boy, and Goliath was this monster of a man, and he had no fear whatsoever. He was not afraid of him, and even quoting out, just his faith in God and everything. He was saying, God is with me. No one can be against me. God will deliver us from our enemy, and he had such faith. Just the army didn't, and they were afraid, and that's why they wouldn't go out there. Goliath was a big, powerful man, but God is bigger and much more powerful. It doesn't matter how big the challenge is and how small you are. With God on your side, you can always face the challenge, no fear, no anxiety, and win every time, and overcome your fear and overcome the challenge. So, big inspiration from David. I thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you learned something new. As always, take it easy. I'll see you guys next week.